What's up everyone, Dave the Data Dude. Today we are going to be talking about the melt function within pandas. This will allow you to take a row of columns and you can make them horizontal, so you can see it in a single line as opposed to vertically, which is how a normal database might, or a normal data frame might be structured. So let's go ahead and jump into it and take a look at what we're going to be doing today. We're going to do an import pandas from PD. We're going to be importing a Pokemon CSV, and we're just going to look at the top 5 rows to make sure everything looks correct, and it does. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into a melt. So the way that you call a melt function is just calling the data frame itself, so df.melt, and you're going to do parentheses, and you're going to give it only a couple parameters to make it work. The only one it needs is ID bars, or the identifying variables, or column really, name. So what that's going to do, you can see here, is it takes the Bulbasaur, or it takes the name column and puts it all into a vertical line, taking the columns and giving you the value for Bulbasaur equals 1. Ivysaur, the number is 2. So forth and so on. You can go all the way down the list until you see that we've got 9,600 rows, because it does this for every single Pokemon. So you can see how you can horizontalize your data. Now, because we didn't specify which one of these we want, it just did them all. So if you wanted to have only a specific one or column or sets of columns that you would want, you would just come in here and say value bars equal. Now we're going to put 2 just so that we can see how we're making a list within our call here. So type 2, and then we'll just do HP. It doesn't matter. We're just doing it to show you how it can work. So we got Bulbasaur, type 2, poison, Ivysaur, type 2, poison, so forth and so on. It gives you down the list, and it basically just took this column and made them into their own column, just stacking them vertically. Now, obviously, we don't necessarily want our column name to be variable unless we're not really using it for anything else. So you can rename your variable column by just doing a comma, var name equals, and we'll just do, column name. Right? Because the variable name that we just saw right there is actually just the column name. That's an easy way to think about it. So it's your column name right here. And obviously for value, that is the value of this column. So type 2's, the column, has the value of poison for the identifying variable of Bulbasaur. And you can use that logic all the way down the list. And if you wanted to rename the value, you could just do value name equals column value, right? So that is the column value of the column name of the identifying variable Bulbasaur. Now, for our data, it's not necessarily super valuable to use a melt because it's not really built like a data frame that would need to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a custom manual data frame so that we can have a look at something that you might actually be using it for. We're going to hand type this out instead of copy and pasting so that you can get a little practice. You can follow along if you'd like. If you already are very comfortable or pretty comfortable with creating your own data frames from scratch, go ahead and just skip the next minute or so and we can jump back into how to use a melt in a more practical manner for our data. So we're going to just go ahead and get rid of that, and we're going to just create a new data frame. We're going to say data frame equals pd.dataframe, open parentheses, brackets, and we're going to have our first column here, and our first column is just going to be state. Well, we'll do city. So city, and we're going to have just a list of a couple cities. We're going to have New York City, San Francisco, San Diego, Upper, and we'll do Albany, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do one more, LA. So we got a couple cities or a couple states from California. We got a couple cities from New York. So we'll do state now. And as we just talked about, it's going to be New York, CA, and we're going to do Upper New York, and CA, right? So now we've got our city, we've got our state, so that we can use those as our in our data frame. And we're going to do maybe a keyboard, right? So we're going to have keyboard, and we're going to have a number here. So this is going to be, I'm just going to type in random numbers here. This doesn't really matter. This is just just to get some numbers in there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to do monitor. We're going to do just another, oops, we're going to make it a list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we can do, oops, I fat fingered something somewhere in my list. Okay. And then we can do one more. It doesn't matter. We'll just do nice, right? And then again, another 6 random numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So let's go ahead and call that. Okay, so you see city, New York. New York has 2318 keyboard, 21398 monitor, and 12389 mice. Okay, so we're going to take a look at our melt, and we're going to figure out how we can use this in a more practical manner. So we're going to do df.melt. We're going to say id vars. Is it id vars or var? It's id vars. id vars equal, and we're going to have it set to city and state, right? So because you want to know each city and state grouping, right? Essentially, it's grouping it by that. And then you've got what you're going to do is if you run it like this, we're going to see for each New York keyboard, they have this many. For San Francisco, they have this many, and so forth and so on. You can see that all the way down because we did not specify a variable or the columns that we wanted. It just gave us them all back. So if we just wanted the let's say keyboard, I guess. Right? So it's giving us only the keyboard, and it's taking the keyboard and making it its own column. Now, this is used for maybe if you have inventory or things like that. So if we're doing inventory on our city and state, we could say something like, all right, well, we want the var name to be inventory item, right? Inventory item, and then we're going to want our value to be value name equals inventory on hand, right? So we know that they have, for keyboards, they have 2,318 in New York, and so forth and so on. And this is a way that you can take your data that might be very horizontal and turn it into a vertical. You'll notice in our particular case that it's not super useful because we only have 3. We can really easy kind of come in here and look at that. But let's say you had 1,000 columns, right? And you had 1,000 different items on hand, and you wanted to write something like this to make it more easy to read, something that you might want to put into a JSON file. You might want to do something like that to send it up to a cloud. This is an easy way that you can take your data that is horizontal and make it vertical. To easily see it, make a report off of it, filter by it, whole list of different things that you have a whole bunch of options for if you should ever need to take your data and melt it. So like and subscribe. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions in the comments, let us know in the comments also if there's anything that you would like to see so that we can keep bringing you quality content that you enjoy. Thank you very much.